Welcome to Phase 4 of the Dual Fuel Rebuild. You're now moving past the basics and entering deep territory. Up to this point, every single phase has been teaching you a standalone skill. Phase 1 taught you daily structure. Phase 2 taught you fuel selection. Phase 3 taught you food diversity. Now Phase 4 teaches you timing. Most people spend their entire lives asking what they should eat. Almost nobody ever stops to ask when they should eat it. That single question sits right at the center of this phase. The real-world truth is simple. Your body does not handle food the same way at noon that it does at 9 p.m. Throughout the day, your energy, your digestion, and your efficiency naturally rise and fall like a wave. The goal of Phase 4 is to stop fighting those natural waves and start riding them. To understand how this works, we have to look back at the core setup of this entire program. The Dual Fuel Rebuild is powered by two distinct engines. Engine number 1 is the fuel engine. That's your food quality, your protein thresholds, and your 30-plant weekly diversity matrix. Engine number 2 is the timing engine. That's your eating windows, your fasting periods, and your movement schedule. For the last 3 phases, we've been strictly upgrading the fuel engine. Phase 4 is where we crank up the timing engine and synchronize them both into a single, high-performance operating system. This is where we introduce a powerful tool called the split window protocol. The split window is designed to organize your food according to its actual purpose. Instead of randomly eating your meals throughout the day, we split your eating window into 2 distinct operational halves. During the first half of your window, you focus heavily on the diversity principles you learned in Phase 3. This is when you eat your high-activity fuels, your fruits, vegetables, complex plant fibers, and clean carbohydrates. Your body is wide awake and active right now. It wants to use this energy. During the second half of your window, you pivot. You shift your focus entirely to the high satiety protein principles from Phase 2. Protein becomes the absolute priority, while your carbohydrate intake naturally drops to near zero. The goal here isn't starvation or restriction. The goal is organization. Different fuels, different times for different purposes. As your eating window closes for the night, we deploy your final anchor, movement. Dropping your daily walk right after your window shuts does something incredible. It creates an immediate demand for energy the exact moment food stops coming in. Combined with your overnight fasting period, this completely clears out any remaining day sugars and forces your engine to smoothly transition onto its internal fuel track, burning your own stored energy for hours while you sleep. You see, Phase 4 is called Inspect for a reason. You are no longer just practicing isolated drills. You are standing back and inspecting how all these moving parts interact with one another. Food quality, fuel selection, plant diversity, meal timing, and evening movement. Every single component amplifies the others. We are not chasing perfection in this phase. We are chasing coordination, because ultimately, the Dual Fuel Rebuild isn't teaching you how to follow a diet. It is teaching you how to master a system. And Phase 4 is where that system officially comes alive.
Up to this point, you have modified your food environment, upgraded your fuel selection, and optimized your internal ecosystem diversity. Now, we coordinate those variables to address the question every high-performance participant asks: how does the split window protocol mathematically accelerate fat oxidation? To understand the biological mechanism, we must look at the exact physiological leverage points you have built across the first 3 phases. The split window is not a temporary fat loss trick. It is a precise manipulation of your body's hormonal biochemistry, engineered to force your metabolism off the glucose track and onto the fat track. To oxidize stored adipose tissue, your body must navigate a strict hormonal gateway governed by insulin. When insulin levels are elevated, lipolysis, the breakdown of stored body fat, is biochemically inhibited. The human machine cannot efficiently pull energy out of its own fat stores when incoming fuel signals are high. The split window protocol systematically lowers your daily insulin baseline to wide open the gates for fat oxidation through 3 distinct mechanical phases. First, during the initial half of your eating window, you introduce your high-activity fuels, your fruits, vegetables, and complex plant fibers. Because your physical and cognitive outputs are highest during this period, your skeletal muscle tissue is highly insulin sensitive. Your body rapidly uptakes these clean carbohydrates and converts them into immediate cellular energy, storing any excess cleanly as muscle glycogen rather than body fat. Second, during the latter half of your window, you pivot entirely to sovereign proteins. By dropping your carbohydrate intake to near zero in the evening, you prevent a late-day insulin spike. Protein requires a high thermic cost to digest, supports lean tissue preservation, and triggers severe satiety. More importantly, it allows your insulin levels to begin their descent hours before you go to sleep. Third, as your eating window hits an unyielding close, you execute your evening walk. This movement creates an immediate metabolic demand. Because no incoming fuel is present, your muscles rapidly vacuum up any remaining glucose left in your bloodstream. This sudden drop in circulating blood sugar triggers a hormonal shift. Insulin drops to its absolute baseline, and its counter-regulatory hormone, glucagon, rises. Glucagon is the key that unlocks your fat cells. With insulin bottomed out and glucagon elevated, your machine enters the overnight fasting runway in an optimized state for fat track oxidation. Instead of spending the first 6 hours of sleep desperately trying to process a heavy, carb-laden late dinner, your body immediately accesses stored adipose tissue. You turn an ordinary 8-hour sleep cycle into an intensive, uninterrupted fat-burning operation. This is why Phase 4 is called the integration phase. We are no longer just practicing isolated habits. We are coordinating food quality, fuel speed, plant diversity, circadian timing, and mechanical movement into a synchronized biological system. The ultimate objective of the split window is not starvation. It is the rapid acquisition of metabolic flexibility, the advanced physiological capability to seamlessly utilize incoming food energy when you eat, and ruthlessly oxidize stored body fat the moment you stop. Phase 4 is where you stop guessing and start directing your biology with clinical precision. Let's continue the rebuild.